Welcome to another edition of After Hours Ag podcast. We are with Ag with Emma. I think a lot of people know you, have seen you, or look familiar to a lot of people. You have a huge social following, and that's one of the things that I noticed when I started here at RedE is your YouTube channel, and I know you have a bunch of other things. But I want to start where I think a lot of people start, and it's your background, because it's interesting that you didn't really grow up doing this. Can you explain how that all started and what you did in your early years?
Yeah, so I have a huge following, but I don't have a lot of background, but people look up to me as an influence in agriculture, which is crazy. But I've shared, like when I started Ag with Emma, it was in 2021, and I started because I took college classes at CSI in Twin Falls. And my professors there were like, oh yeah, this is this and this is how this works. But even before then, my grandparents had a dairy in Wisconsin that I kind of like grew up on. I would go help feed the cows and stuff like that. But my dad was an HVAC tech, so we didn't stay on the farm. We moved to Washington. And then when my mom got divorced, she remarried a farm manager in southern Idaho. So that's where we kind of shifted into the Idaho scheme of things. And then through the Idaho community that we had, it was a rural community, a lot like any community in North Dakota. There was just a lot of people that had like animals. They needed help with chores on the weekends. Like it was, can you come help water my plants and feed my cows kind of thing. And then I was an FFA in high school. And then when I was in like my last year of high school, I worked for the university extension in town, and I helped with like the data research side of things. And then after I graduated high school, I went to CSI and I started majoring in natural resource management because I still didn't know a lot about agriculture. I was like, you know, it's kind of like the rural knowledge, but not like production ag.
Mm-hmm. And CSI is?
CSI is College of Southern Idaho.
Gotcha.
In Twin Falls.
Okay.
So that's where I got my associates from. But I skipped around in my majors a lot. I started as natural resource management. I switched to horticulture because I'm like, oh, I like plants. And then I switched over to just like general agriculture with a focus in crop production because I was working in seed production, and that was just a lot more applicable to like what I thought that I was gearing towards. So the like seed production thing, I started with a company in Twin Falls, and the owner of that company who started it was the guy that actually like invented sugar snap peas.
Oh, wow.
On accident. So his name was Calvin. I never met him because he died a few years before I started working there, but he invented sugar snap peas on accident with a mutation from like just a normal pea, like the snow peas, and it just mutated, and then he got like the sugar snaps or the ands or something like that, like a very common variety. And then on his production, it was still all very small scale seed production, so we had like a 13-acre field with like hundreds and hundreds of varieties in it. So it was like a lot of rogaine seeds and peas when they're in the field, and then like a lot of greenhouse notes. Like I never got into the breeding stuff, but that's just kind of, I was doing like the behind the scenes work of like helping produce that. And then when I started posting about that, I started seeing more of the big equipment and like being entertained by that. So I got a podcast of my own going, which I don't have anymore, but it was a podcast with one of my college professors. And through that podcast, I found a guy on TikTok that posted about custom harvest. And that's kind of where the equipment thing came in. I'm like, oh, I want to go run big tractors and combines, and I want to do cool stuff like that. Because I had never driven a tractor. Like the first time I drove a tractor, I drove it down the road, and it was like a 4010, and it didn't have a cab or no blinkers or anything, like very old tractor. And I put my hand out to turn, and a lady tried to pass me, and she hit my front tire, and like we had to pull over and talk to the police and everything. And I was like terrified of driving tractors down the road.
Yeah.
So after that, I got into the equipment side of things, and I did custom harvest through that podcast that I recorded. And then that kind of brought me to North Dakota and a lot of other people and places after I started my Ag with Emma thing. And that's how I ended up here.
So talk about the start of the social media, all the different, aspects that you use, the YouTube, the Insta and things like that. I guess the first question is what sparked that? Why did you decide this? I'm going to try to go down this avenue as well.
So I started social media in my last semester of my associate's degree, and that was spring of 2021. And I started because I was an ag ambassador for the college, so I was on a scholarship to kind of advocate for the ag department. And then in one of my classes, my plant science class, one of the classmates in there asked if soil and fertilizer was the same thing. And like, I didn't know a lot. I just knew that like there was only 10 GMOs and like what artificial insemination meant and like that kind of stuff, like very basic ag facts. And then when she asked that, I was like, oh my gosh, like she's an ag major in college, or like at least some kind of, she's in a plant related class like that applies to agriculture and doesn't know the difference. And like people are in college to learn, and I didn't hold that against her or anything, but I was like, this is the level of knowledge that like most of society has about agriculture. So I just started sharing it, and I started in March of 2021 because that's National Ag Month, and I just shared a fact on my story every day, and it was just my personal account. And then I decided, like, with the feedback from that, I wanted to like make it a more public account so that I was like protecting my privacy and stuff like that, to share more facts. So I started that on Instagram first, and then I started a YouTube because I had to ask my boss with the seed production for permission to like record what we did, because there was a lot of like proprietary information. I was like, I just want to share like general information about seed production. So I started the YouTube then, and then on TikTok I had a video blow up about comparing like the COVID vaccine to GMOs, and I was like, it was very controversial at that time, and I think I've since taken the video down because I'm like, I just don't want to deal with it, and it's not like I don't need to be involved with any of that. But that's kind of where my TikTok started blowing up, and I realized that was just another avenue to share information in a productive way that people still didn't know anything. So then I started doing like ag fact quizzes on TikTok, and I would just share like how many square feet are in an acre and like all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of where the Ag with Emma thing, that's like where my slogan, not my slogan, but everyone knows that I like ask people how many square feet are in an acre. That's where that started. And then through my TikToks, I was meeting a lot of different people because I was like reaching out to different ag influencers that I didn't know existed, because I thought I was the only one that was an ag influencer. I was the only one posting ag facts. But there were so many more people that I met. And then my parents moved to Iowa, and I was living in Idaho still. So I was traveling back and forth from Idaho to Iowa and like stopping at these farmers, places that I had met along the way, because it was like straight interstate shot. So all these farmers would be like, well, I know you're driving by, like come stop at my farm. So I was learning about people from Nebraska and Iowa and like all the Midwest operations, because I had no idea like what grain storage needed to be like. You know, that's just not a huge thing in Idaho, and that's not something I was around. So I started learning about that, and then my YouTube took off the next spring, so spring of 2022, right before I went on harvest, because I went to the National Farm Machinery Show in February with people that I met off social media, and then there I stood in line to meet Larson's, like Larson Farms, and I gave them my card, and I was like, hey, I'm coming to see Zach, like millennial farmer, because I'd messaged him on TikTok. And then through that trip, like I went from Idaho to Minnesota and a couple other places, and then that's when my YouTube blew up. Okay. Like 10K was blowing up to me back then.
Sure.
So that's when everything really kind of like took off. And then through my harvest crew experience, like a lot of people wanted to see that. So they were like, oh, this is unique. Like there's a girl on harvest and she's recording all about it. So that's kind of when YouTube, I can't remember when my YouTube hit 100,000. I think it was when I was working in North Dakota, actually, because of big equipment and everything. But yeah, that's kind of how it's evolved.
Has your presence on social media gotten bigger because you do so many different things in the ag field, or is it the other way around?
I'd assume so, just because like the experience is very vast, and I try to focus on like posting equipment, because when I was posting ag facts, like it was growing a lot initially, but then it was like anyone can post that. So I think a lot of growth on social media has to do with like having your personality and your niche and just building off that, because a lot of where people go wrong on growing on social media is like finding something that works really well for them and then completely going the opposite way. Right. So like if your goal is to not grow and like just be on social media to have fun and do whatever, then that's fine. But if your goal is to like grow and have an audience and to like make a living off of it, then like you need to find a niche and stick with it. Because I've noticed like when I don't post equipment videos and when I'm not posting like, hey, this is what's going on, people just want to see what's going on because they don't have a like direct line of access to what's going on in agriculture all the time.
Mm-hmm. And you've gotten to experience so many different things, and I assume that's a lot to do with social media. Going to Australia, going to so many different farms, custom combiner. Is that because of social media, do you think? And does it kind of just snowball from there? That
Yeah,
the more you do, the more opportunities you get?
The more you do, the more people you meet, and then the more people, like, you know, just have kind of a basic amount of trust in you to come and, like, help on their operation. And I've been really lucky to meet a lot of people that have been willing to teach me basically anything that I want to know. So, like, custom harvest. I'd never driven a tractor, really, to the extent that they needed me to drive a tractor. Never ran a grain cart, never been in a combine. I called them, was honest about my experience, and they were like, yeah, see you in May. And I was like, and then I was, like, nervous about it for the next 6 months because I got that job, like, lined up the October before I left. And then my first day on the job, like, we were changing semi-tires. I didn't even know you could change tires off a rim by yourself without taking it to a shop. Like, you know, but I was there and I had to do it. So I was like, that's what we were doing. And then, like, Australia, I met them through my connections that I had just built through social media. And it was just, like, another family that needed help on their operation for a little bit. And it was like, perfect, let's go do that. And then when I came back, I was, like, going to a bunch of farm shows. And most of the time, it's just you get those experiences through people that message you because you post about having a willingness to learn. Mm-hmm. So they're like, they see that and they're like, well, I can teach you this on my farm. Yeah. Like, I still get messages, like, today about, like, hey, you should come to my operation and see this, this, and this.
Yeah, and I noticed that too. I think that's one of the things that people like about you is that I'm going to try it. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't ever seem to say no.
Yeah.
You know, that I don't want to do that. Yeah. I mean, you go head first and let's just see what happens. I mean, I think that's kind of one of the things that defines you at least on social media and probably throughout your career.
I'd say so. I don't really back down from things. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to do this, and it's going to be what it is. And if I suck at it, then I suck at it. And if I don't, then it's fun, and you learn something. So
you've been in North Dakota for a while. Have you settled into doing just a couple of things, or are you still...
I for sure don't branch out as much as I used to. When I came up to North Dakota, I got my job in North Dakota through Harvest Crew. And the farmer that we cut for in western North Dakota knew that I had a YouTube, and he watched my videos, and he really liked my drone footage because I would, like, you know, show him all the drone footage I took on his farm. And so he called me when I was in Australia in about January after harvest and was like, you should come run a sprayer for me. And that was kind of just like scratching that itch of, like, I haven't done that and I want to go try it. So I came up to North Dakota in May of 2023. And I ran a sprayer for 2 days, and I was, like, going and doing all the other stuff on the farm. So that was fun. And then I worked on his farm until September of 2024. And then I started working in the agronomy side of things, independent consulting, with K-Hart. So that's who I work with over by Dickinson.
So out of all the things that you've been able to do, are there some that you like the most and would like to try to continue doing, or are there a lot of things that you still want to try?
I think I've settled into the spot that I like to be, because I definitely like harvest. I like being around the, like, small grain environment. Like, western North Dakota really is an ideal environment for what I've found that I enjoy. And it kind of keeps me in my comfort zone. Like, I definitely want to go see more things being harvested and, like, see how different things are run. But, like, job wise, I'm kind of settled in, like, this is where I'm comfortable and this is where I know I can thrive. And where I'm not in a constant, like, reset, start over mode. So I think I've gotten past my, like, frontal lobe development itch of wanting to do everything at the same time. And I'm like, no, this is okay. I like some stability. Yeah. So yeah, that's the point that I'm at.
You mentioned job-wise.
Mm-hmm.
How much of a job is social media? That's not easy coming up with content, like, all the time.
Well, there's a reason it's definitely slowed down. It's because it's a lot of work and, like, editing videos, and I get a lot of slack on YouTube right now because they're like, you should edit a video, you should post a video, and I'm like, it takes so much time. And normally I can just slap something together, and that's also what people like to see. Like, they like the low effort edits, you know. It's like, the fancier it gets, the more you lose your audience because it just feels too production-y for my videos. But it's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time to, like, engage with an audience and to build content and to, like, put together ideas and then to go film that content and then to do, like, partnerships on the side of that, and then just, like, all of the things that pile up. Like, I always tell people I have, like, 3 jobs because social media is like a job and a half of them.
Definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, Definitely. It takes a lot of time, and then you have to also consider, like, your actual job. And then I always work with people that are okay with me making content. So that does make it a little easier, but it's still a lot of work.
But one of those jobs is what brings you here to town, I assume. Can you explain? We're in the middle of winter right now.
Yeah.
So can you explain what some of the things that you're doing here and, in the near future, I guess?
Yeah, so being in Fargo today, we came over for the Northern Corn and Soy Expo, and they messaged me like last summer and asked if I wanted to come and kind of like help advertise for their show and stuff like that. So that is like through social media. They see that I have an audience and I have a North Dakota audience, and it's like, hey, I'm going to be at the show, have a meet and greet. And then agronomy on ice is actually on Wednesday as well. So we're going to be going up to that in Devil's Lake and then going back home. But like winter is so full of farm shows and everything, and everyone's always asking, are you going to be at this show? Are you going to be at that show? And I'm like, I just want to stay home. Like, it's cold outside. Yeah. But in my prime, I was definitely going to a lot of farm shows, like all the time. I was like running ragged going to farm shows and meeting so many people. But now it's kind of slowed down. So.
When we talk about all the jobs that you've done, are there any, you mentioned some that you really like and what you've found that, is enjoyable. Are there any that you've done where you're like, I don't have to do that anymore?
Anything with cows. I'm like, it's nice for a day, but I'm not doing it anymore. I worked on, it's not that bad, but I think, yeah, I just am not an animal person when it comes to like livestock and everything. So I like making informational videos about it, but I don't like the work behind it. It's just like stinky and gross, and it's fun for a day, and then you're done with it. So
you're more into plants.
Yeah.
Even the kind of the science of it too, right? I mean, some of the videos that I've seen, you really like to get into that aspect of why things grow and what helps them grow, what doesn't work for plants.
And I think that the biology side of agriculture is really important, and since a lot of people don't understand it, that's where a lot of like misconception comes from. So the more we understand it, the more we can advocate for it, because like if you're just talking to someone that doesn't know anything about agriculture and they're like, oh yeah, it just goes in the ground, we spray some stuff on it and then we bring it to the shop, and it's like that tells the consumer nothing. Yeah. It's like, why do we spray this? Why do you spray that? Like, why do you plant this? Why do you fertilize with that? Like, understanding the science behind it is really important for advocating for the industry, because if something comes up and someone asks you about it and you don't know the answer, it's like you don't really know your industry. But that also goes back to the research and development side of where I started originally and being like applying it now in a different setting. So I have always enjoyed the science side of it though. Sure. Like even in college and like my classes and stuff, I was always very enthused and like entertained in my science classes. So
talk a little bit more about the industry, and you're in the middle of it. You talk to a ton of farmers, producers. What's the state of it right now of agriculture?
Messy.
I mean, yeah. I mean, what are you hearing out there?
Everything is really expensive. Everyone is really mad. The weather is going to be your biggest make or break. And like, I'm not super educated on markets, but they're not good. So yeah, I'm glad I don't have to be educated on markets, I guess.
So what are the people in your area doing, and what are they saying?
Well, a lot of the people that I work with personally like are in an okay boat, but they're still trying to take preventative measures so that they don't sink in like the next couple of years. Because it is tough for everyone right now, and that is like, those are conversations that I want to have more intentionally this summer in the growing season. But it's kind of like an upset with how rattled everything can be right now, and how quick you could just lose everything with the wrong decision or not enough rain. So Western North Dakota, like, it's always kind of a toss-up if we're going to have a drought or a really wet year, because it's just how Western North Dakota is. Like, we're not as bad as Eastern Montana, where we know we're always going to get a drought, but we're at that like point where you either always get rain or you never get anything. So you're either like, you're always however many days away from a drought. Like, that's for anybody, but like farmers in our area, like there's some guys that are buying new land this year and buying brand new equipment, and there's other guys that are taking it back on fertilizer. Like, they're, chopping back on inputs so that they can make it work for another year. So I think that's pretty common across the board. Like, you're going to have farmers that are okay because they've taken the preventative measures, and then you're going to have farmers that are going bankrupt. But I know that a lot of bankers are saying no this year for a lot of things, which sucks. So
one of the things we do here is help farmers rebuild some of their machines to keep them, running a little bit longer. And some of the things that we like to ask, for fun is, at least the people here is what machines do you like working on? Which ones do you not like working on? Do you have favorites that you've either driven, used, fixed?
Well, my favorite to run is a grain cart because I'm always the boss in the field when I run one of those. But that's, you don't have to do a lot of repairs on those. I think combines are fun to work on. Like when you're getting combines prepped and ready to go, I've worked on drills. Like I think it's a pain in the butt to work on drills because they're so big and there's so many, the crawl space is terrible. Right. So those aren't my favorite to work on, but I do see the value in replacing a lot of those parts rather than, just shooting it down the road kind of thing. But I've worked on a lot of combines with being on harvest crew and just being in small grains and stuff like that. So those are fun to work on. But yeah, I don't really have to do a lot of the work on the equipment. So most of the time I'm just cleaning it after they're done, which is completely fine with me.
That's okay. Yeah. What about you on the horizon? I mean, do you have a lot of things, at least with social media and things like that, where you're partnering with people and are you having to say no sometimes, or, how is that? Is it almost gotten bigger than you are comfortable with?
Yeah, I get
really?
A lot of emails from a lot of different people all the time. And you get the goofy partnership emails that are just completely AI generated and they have no applicable anything. But you get to a point where, when I started, I was getting free boots in the mail, and they asked me to make some videos, and I was so excited about it. And I still have videos saved of myself being like, I just got free boots in the mail. This is crazy. That's just insane to see where I've come from. But, I just had to turn down a partnership because they couldn't pay enough to, have the space on my page. That's just how it is. So when you grow a social media following and you have, X amount of followers, you can charge X amount of money. And then, if you don't charge that, you're just lowering the bar for everyone. That rips everyone off that you're in the industry with. So there's a lot of influencers and other people that create content that will talk about, what the rates are. We all share it pretty openly, and it's yep, this is what I charge for this, and this is what you should not be charging for this, and this is what you literally cannot do that job for. And then there's, extra that you have to charge for if they want to, whitelist your content and then, use it on their own ad space. It's a very insane game of how much influence is that video going to have, because you have to remember that you're helping advertise for a company, and that's something that I've been really bad about. Yeah, it's not my strong suit. I don't like charging people for videos, but I have to keep it at a set amount because I also don't want to flood my space with ads. People don't follow me to be advertised to, they follow me to be educated. So I try to point it towards educational partnerships, which I've been doing a good job at. I feel like it's, I do some fun ones with big equipment dealers, and then I do some fun ones for educational purposes. But this summer, I'll have there's more John Deere things coming out. There's canola stuff coming out. So that's kind of what's on the horizon, I guess, for that. But still lots of agronomy information, and then definitely doing more equipment this year.
Mm-hmm. Have you been in the ag industry long enough to see the ups and downs, the cycles, or is that a year-to-year thing, or have you? Or
I think maybe when I'm 80.
Is it geography based as far as you can tell as well, just from what you've seen?
As an industry, everyone struggles everywhere. When one area is struggling, most of them are struggling. I think what's being shared about the farmers in Alabama and the South right now, that's really bad. And I don't know why it's bad down there and why it's not as bad other places, but I think it's just a matter of what they grow. I think regionally it can change depending on the crop, because we don't grow cotton in North Dakota.
Right.
So the cotton growers are probably I don't know what the cotton market's like, but that definitely affects the people in Alabama and Texas and that kind of area more than us. So regionally that could definitely impact struggle. But
you've worked with a variety of crops. I mean, in terms of either growing or harvesting and things like that. So how different is one from the other, just in what you've been able to learn?
I think it's mostly all the same when it comes to production agriculture, because unless you get into the specialty niche crops, there's not a lot still that they all get planted, fertilized, harvested, and then the ground ripped up or left the same. But there's a lot of people that are taking more like regenerative approaches and like sustainability wise to like, you know, suit the needs of what you need to do to make more money off of those. Like the double cropping areas, I haven't done any kind of double cropping. Like the guys that plant wheat and then harvest it and plant soybeans right after, like the relay crops that are like you harvest the wheat right over the soybeans. Like, I think that's crazy and I'd love to learn more about it, but I don't want to like move there. You know, it's like I'll spend a day to go talk to you about it, but I'm staying up here.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of innovative things that farmers can do to like keep themselves on their toes. But I think when it comes down to cropping systems, it's mostly like, it just comes down to, you know, logistically where they're at and like, you know, how wheat is grown. Wheat is grown the same everywhere, but the timing of it is all different. Like farmers in Texas are getting ready to harvest like soon, like winter wheat anyways. They're like planting corn right now, but like we wouldn't even think about planting until May. So then you never know. Like you're thinking about it, but you're not like, oh, I have to have my planter in the ground next week, which is the point that they're at. So
I know you guys spent a lot of time in the car, so I want to thank you for taking the quick pit stop here before your appearance tomorrow. And now that we know you're not too far in our backyard, maybe we'll track you on social media and maybe we can do something again. We're always out inspecting drills and things like that. It'd be fun to maybe have you along sometime. And
I love to make videos about wear and tear and what we need to pay attention to. I need to make a lot more air seeder videos actually, because it's like no one knows how air seeders work, and I think they're the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, so. that's kind of right in our wheelhouse. So we'll have to stay in touch and do something like that. Thanks, Emma. Appreciate you stopping by and sharing a little time here with After Hours Ag Podcast.
Thanks for having me.